Welcome to my presentation of LATU National Intern and International Conference 2022 on July 26 and July 27, 2022. My presentation is the production of the English past counterfactuals of Thai EFL University students, the case of the influences from the interlanguage fossilization. I'm Yossiri. Every language has different theoretical formation and way to express conditional sentences. English conditional sentences are regarded as cognitively and linguistically subtle, as they can convey different meanings depending on forms and discursive functions. Some type of conditional sentences in English, such as past counterfactual conditionals, are considered difficult to acquire due to its structural, syntactic, and semantic complexity. The conditional constructions consist of if clause and main clause. A situation or action in the main clause happens if the particular events in the if clause takes place. The conditional sentences are inherently presupposed, conveying different meanings such as cognitive reasoning, imaginative, and hypothetical. The sequence of these clauses can be alternated without affecting the meaning. So this is a table of 4 types of English conditionals: 0, 1, 2, and 3. The conditional type 2 is counterfactual to present events, and type 3 is counterfactual to past event. These clauses are in a subjunctive mood. They can be interpreted both indicatively and hypothetically, making conditional sentences, especially type 2 and 3, comprehensively problematic for learner of English. This complexity encompasses several linguistic aspects, namely forms, meanings, and subjective verb and tense relational agreement. Therefore, speakers of other languages whose verbal inflection regarding temporal aspects is uncommon in other linguistic systems such as Thai and other Asian languages are likely to encounter difficulties in precisely expressing their conditional statements in English. Thai conditional sentences can semantically express 4 major intentional purposes: conditions, assumptions, alternative, situation. Thai language has no definite categorization in distinguishing different types of conditional sentences. In one conditional sentence, the meaning can be mainly expressed in 3 possible time references, either past, present, or future, owing to the non-existence of morphological inflection in the language system. Hence, contexts are required in order to determine the meaning interpretation of sentence. Usually, if is applied to the beginning of the subordinate clauses, they state a subsequently true condition of main clause. However, the omission of ifs can happen in abrupt speech. Thai does not have a morphological inflection, which is grammatically deviant from English. And another aspect is the appearance of adverbial markers. These adverbs are employed to indicate the temporal conditions in a sentence, similar to the use of modal verb in English. This indicates the difference in English and Thai. Second language are challenged by reaching the proficient level equivalent to native speakers of target language. So they stuck in this phrase, so it's called fossilization. Fossilization is the phenomenon where linguistic knowledge of learner become fixed during the process of language learning. However, it's noteworthy that some L2 competencies could be possibly reach the native-like levels during the process of learning, where some may remain unattainable and become fossilized in the interlanguage. So the causation of fossilization can be classified into 5 processes: native language migration, overgeneralization of linguistic rules, training migration, learning strategies, and competitive strategies. So this result in the deviant production of linguistic features and grammatical forms in the target language. A number of linguistic forms produced by learners with fossilization tend to be wrong and persistent, though some of the fossilized feature might be rectified. Fossilization is therefore deemed common in second language learning. Despite the acknowledgement of conditionals in the literature, the focus of the prior research has been emphasized on the use of verbs and tenses. There remains a paucity of studies investigating conditional aspects, particularly the past counterfactual sentences. So the current study attempts to address the research gap by these 2 research questions. What is the production of English past counterfactual sentences among Thai EFL University's learners? And how is the production of the past counterfactual sentences accounted for by Thai EFL University student learners? So the participant is 100. The participants were 141 undergraduate students with the average age at 19.96 years. Their learning experiences range from below 5 years to above 21 years. So their English proficiency level were at the independent user level according to the adopted CFR. So the instrument we use the translation task and interview. The translation task used to derive the quantitative information, and the qualitative data was derived from the semi-structured interviews. So the descriptive that's derived to overview the frequency of patterns regarding the produced English past counterfactual, and then we analyze the qualitative data by means of open coding and thematic-based analysis. So the result, 2 common patterns in producing past English past counterfactual by participants were identified. All of them were considered major errors since they were in principal components of the past counterfactual, such as misuse of modal perfect and frequently applied tenses pattern. Here, as you can see, the major errors, the erroneous application of tenses. So the production patterns that we found here, as you can see in table 3 and table 4 here, the use of MP in the past counterfactual main clause produced by the participants. And the table 3 shows that there are no type 3 conditional structure. There were only the type 2 and 1. The students' frequency applied in table 4, as you can see, the result revealed that they seem to have less familiarity with the past counterfactual aspect. They appear supplied ignorance or misuse of the modal perfect in producing the statements by simple tenses such as the present simple and the past, present simple and the future simple, and the present simple and the present simple. This result is consistent with the previous research showing that for Thai EFL learners, the production in present and future in which clauses were relatively easy. However, the structural conditional mismatch, such as the use of the past sentences in the if clause and the future sentences in the main clause, were essentially found in the responses. Despite the absence of the past counterfactual, 2.86% of them were found to produce in the use of MP, as seen in table 5. And in addition, the past temporal markers were prevalently found in clauses regardless of tenses, indicating the slightly use of past perfect tense across student answers. So it can be seen in the table follows. In this table here, you can see the percentage here as the tense applied in the counterfactual sentences and the use of past perfect tense in counterfactual sentences. Minor common errors found across participant production of the English past counterfactual could be attributed to the L1 transfer and the overgeneralization of the grammatical rules. The findings show that when they encounter unfamiliar linguistic structures and had interpretative difficulties, they tended to supply their insufficient knowledge of L2 by the L1. The mismatch of tenses found in the production is due to the incomplete conditional acquisition and the use of adverbs for temporal indication. This might hinder how learners interpreted and produced the English past counterfactuals. The erroneous production and the interview could reflect in the language fossilization and the language transfer. As you can see, for the interview, 2 major themes, namely native language migration and training migration, were derived. So based on the interview, the past counterfactual inability was primarily attributed to the L1 interference. It was observed that in performing the task, interviewees were inclined to interpret and translate the provided statement in Thai. Simple or familiar English lexicons were their primary selections. The given English past counterfactual sentences were produced by direct replacement of simple or familiar English words. English conditional sentences, structures, and aspects were not taken into their consideration. Their interpretation and erroneous production could be that their Conditional knowledge was incompletely acquired, reflecting the interlanguage fossilization and the language transfer. So these are the excerpts from the interview. Another factor affecting the production of English past counterfactual was training migration. Training migration refers to an application of recognizable items or regulations from training processes such as exercises or procedural practices. In learning English grammar, Thai students are generally familiar with memorization and translation. The principally adopted training method is grammar translation remains prevalent in teaching and learning English in Thailand since it is believed to be facilitative to specifically grammatical explanation. The student also had less opportunity to employ the conditional aspect since L1 was dominant in both learning and daily environments. The results were found inconsistent with those in prior literature, illustrating that learners perform better in English conditionals after receiving the grammar-oriented instructions. It can be seen in the excerpt below. Overall, the current study highlights the Thai EFL learners acquire and employ English conditional, the past counterfactual in particular. Moreover, the study further implied that learners' comprehension and production of the English past counterfactual may be potentially affected by interlanguage fossilization, particularly L1 native transfer and the training migration. The finding can be also taken into account to maximize the effectiveness of instructional pedagogies and to overcome learners' difficulties that may occur during the process of acquisition and utilization of the English past counterfactuals. Moreover, we contend that the structural knowledge should be explicitly instructed concomitant with the explanation of its usage, and extra time should be allocated to learners' acquisition and the understanding of the English past counterfactual. So we should set some limitations of our study. First, the data collect from specific academic domains, where the qualitative data were accumulated from restricted number of participants. So the finding may not be representative to students in other academic domains. Further study may consider increasing the population size, collecting data from other academic disciplines to make findings more interferential and conclusive. Second, the translation tax was employed in this study. The tax was relatively passive in nature and could promote, to a certain extent, structural and grammatical competency. However, this tag may be difficult for learners, particularly non-native speakers of English, to connect, retrieve, and apply acquired knowledge to the actual communicative usage of the past counterfactuality. So the use of communicative tasks such as impromptu speaking or storytelling may be alternatively considered for future research, as they may be more effective in capturing learners' productive process of the English past counterfactual. And these are references. And it comes to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.